Why did Miles Davis say he would never play with Billie Holiday again? After the dramatic incident at Blue Note Studios in 1949, the bebop legend publicly rejected Billie Holiday and dismissed her as old school. But the real story is much more complicated. Duke Ellington's secret recordings, Charlie Parker's hidden confessions, and Louis Armstrong's private letters all reveal the complex relationships between jazz's greatest talents. Today I'm going to tell you the untold stories of Lady Day with other jazz legends and explain the behind-the-scenes conflicts that music history never knew about. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel because in the coming weeks we'll be sharing the untold collaborations of other music legends and the hidden rivalries of the jazz world. In the late 1940s, New York's jazz scene was undergoing unprecedented transformation. The bebop movement was challenging traditional swing, and a new generation of musicians like Miles Davis, Dizzy Gillespie, and Charlie Parker were pushing artistic boundaries. During this revolutionary period, established artists like Billie Holiday found themselves at a crossroads: evolve or maintain artistic integrity. This dilemma created tensions within the jazz community that would shape relationships for decades. The Blue Note Studios incident occurred in March 1949. Alfred Lion had organized a jazz recording session that would bring together bebop stars with traditional vocalists. The concept was innovative, blending the musical styles of different generations. Miles Davis was already a rising star in the bebop scene, known for his innovative trumpet technique and rebellious attitude. Billie Holiday was an established legend, unmatched for her emotional depth and unique vocal interpretation. On paper, this collaboration looked promising, but reality was completely different. Even before the session began, tensions were evident. When Miles Davis arrived at the studio, he displayed a dismissive attitude toward old-guard musicians. From his perspective, traditional jazz was outdated, and bebop represented the future. Billie Holiday, as an experienced performer, recognized this youthful arrogance but decided to approach it professionally. During initial rehearsals, stylistic differences immediately became apparent. Miles's fast-paced, complex harmonic progressions clashed with Billie's slower, emotion-driven interpretations. The critical moment occurred during the first song recording attempt. Billie Holiday used traditional phrasing techniques with emotional pauses and subtle tempo variations. Miles Davis found this approach frustrating because it didn't align with his bebop sensibilities. The recording session was interrupted multiple times due to timing issues and artistic disagreements. Producer Alfred Lion tried to mediate, but the fundamental incompatibility became obvious. The recording booth atmosphere was tense as technical difficulties mounted. Sound engineers struggled to balance levels between Miles's aggressive trumpet attack and Billie's intimate vocal delivery. These technical challenges exacerbated the artistic differences, creating a vicious cycle that neither artist could escape from. Musicians in the session band became increasingly uncomfortable as tension escalated between the two musical giants. The first song was "What Is This Thing Called Love?", a standard that both artists were familiar with but brought completely different interpretations to. Billie approached this song with characteristic emotional depth, drawing out the lyrical content and creating an intimate conversation with the listener. Miles interpreted the same song as a vehicle for rapid harmonic exploration, fast tempo changes, and complex improvisation that demonstrated bebop innovation. This fundamental difference in approach proved irreconcilable. Multiple takes were attempted, but each attempt became worse than the previous one. Miles became increasingly impatient with Billie's slower pacing, while Billie was frustrated with Miles's inability to appreciate emotional subtlety. The session musicians were caught between two approaches, unsure which style to support. Producer Alfred Lion realized this collaboration was doomed, but continued hoping for a breakthrough moment. Tension reached its peak when Miles Davis openly criticized Billie's vocal style. With studio microphones still rolling, harsh words were exchanged. Miles described Lady Day's approach as outdated and limiting, blaming her for being unable to contribute to the modern jazz movement. Billie Holiday, with decades of experience and artistic wisdom, responded calmly but firmly. She pointed out that authentic expression was timeless, and technical complexity could not substitute for emotional authenticity. This critical exchange was witnessed by all session participants and later recounted in multiple musician memoirs. Miles's exact words reportedly included a harsh assessment that old-style singing has no place in modern jazz, and that Billie represented everything bebop is trying to move beyond. Billie's response was equally direct, stating that young musicians often confuse complexity with depth, and that real artistry comes from emotional truth, not technical showing off. The studio atmosphere was electric with tension as other musicians realized they were witnessing a historic confrontation between two giants of jazz. The session drummer later recalled feeling paralyzed, unsure whether to continue playing or stop completely. The bass player described the awkward silence that followed the verbal exchange as everyone waited to see what would happen next. In the aftermath of this confrontation, the session was abruptly ended. Miles Davis stormed out of the studio, publicly declaring that he would never again collaborate with traditional vocalists. This statement was widely reported in jazz magazines and created controversy within the music community. Billie Holiday, with characteristic dignity, did not respond directly to Miles's comments but expressed disappointment to close friends. This incident created a divide in the jazz world between bebop innovators and traditional performers. Media coverage sensationalized the incident, with competing narratives emerging about who was responsible for the failure. Jazz magazines took sides, some supporting Miles's innovation and others defending Billie's traditional approach. This public controversy damaged both artists' reputations to some extent as fans were forced to choose between competing camps rather than appreciating both contributions to jazz music. But the real story behind this public feud was much more complex. Private conversations and unpublished interviews reveal that Miles Davis actually had deep respect for Billie Holiday's artistry. His harsh public statements were partly rooted in insecurity and the need to establish credibility among bebop peers. Young musicians often reject traditional styles to prove their innovation and artistic independence. Later in Miles's career, he gained a mature perspective and expressed regret about his harsh treatment of established artists. Duke Ellington's relationship with Billie Holiday represented a completely different dynamic. Duke was a sophisticated composer and bandleader who always appreciated diverse musical styles and valued generational wisdom. Their first meeting occurred at the Cotton Club in 1943, when Billie performed several songs with Duke's orchestra as a guest performer. Immediate musical chemistry was evident because both artists shared an appreciation for emotional depth and sophisticated harmonic structures. This initial collaboration led to secret recording sessions that were never officially released. From 1944 to 1947, they made experimental recordings in Duke Ellington's private studio that explored a completely different sound. These sessions blended Billie's voice with orchestral arrangements that Duke had specially composed for her unique vocal qualities. These recordings incorporated classical music influences into jazz arrangements, creating an unprecedented fusion that was decades ahead of its time. These secret sessions showcased remarkable musical experimentation. Duke used sophisticated orchestration techniques to create soundscapes that perfectly complemented Billie's vocal style. These arrangements were revolutionary because they treated the voice as an equal partner to instrumental sections. The recording process itself was intensive and required multiple sessions to achieve the desired results. Duke's obsessive attention to detail demanded dozens of takes for each song. Billie was willing to participate in this experimental process, completely trusting his musical judgment. Musicians participating in these sessions later described them as magical experiences. Duke's orchestra members were surprised by the unprecedented musical possibilities that emerged when Billie's voice was added to the mix. Song selections for the secret sessions were carefully chosen to showcase both artists' abilities. The mix included jazz standards and Duke's original compositions. This diverse repertoire allowed for extensive musical exploration. The technical quality of these recordings was exceptional. Utilizing state-of-the-art recording equipment, this superior sound quality preserved musical nuances that commercial recordings often missed. Why these revolutionary recordings were never released remains a mystery. Some music historians suggest that record companies preferred a conservative approach and considered experimental music commercially risky. Others believe that both artists were simply satisfied with private artistic exploration and didn't feel the necessity for public release. These recordings still exist in the Duke Ellington estate, occasionally referenced in scholarly research but never made available to the public. Commercial considerations were likely a significant factor in the decision to keep the recordings private. This experimental music didn't fit established marketing categories. Record companies preferred safely categorizable products. The personal relationship between Duke and Billie had a paternal dimension. Duke assumed a mentor role, providing career guidance and emotional support during difficult periods. During Billie's addiction struggles and legal problems, Duke discreetly provided assistance, helping with legal fees and arranging rehabilitation opportunities. This support system was crucial for Billie, especially when other industry figures maintained distance due to her controversial reputation. Duke's support extended beyond professional assistance to genuine personal concern for Billie's welfare. He often invited her to his home for family dinners, providing a stable social environment. This personal connection influenced their musical collaboration, creating trust that translated into unprecedented artistic chemistry. The musical influence this relationship had on both artists was profound and lasting. Duke's later compositions showed increased attention to vocal considerations and emotional depth that he developed through working with Billie. Her subsequent performances demonstrated enhanced understanding of orchestral possibilities and sophisticated harmonic structures that Duke had taught her. This mutual artistic growth demonstrated how collaborative relationships could enhance rather than limit individual artistic development. Charlie Parker's relationship with Billie Holiday was a mixture of professional admiration and personal complexity. Bird was an outstanding alto saxophonist who co-founded the bebop movement, but also struggled with serious addiction problems. This shared experience with addiction created common ground with Billie, a mutual understanding that other musicians couldn't fully comprehend. Bird often expressed that Billie's vocal techniques influenced his own improvisation style. This addiction connection was deeper than simple shared experience. Both artists understood the desperate cycle that heroin dependency created. This understanding created a bond that transcended normal professional relationships. Charlie Parker's musical analysis of Billie's technique was sophisticated. He specifically admired her rhythmic displacement techniques. This same approach influenced his own saxophone improvisations. Professional interactions between Charlie and Billie were characterized by mutual respect. When they encountered each other at clubs, conversations often focused on technical aspects of performance. These discussions influenced both artists' subsequent work. Private conversations documented in musicians' memoirs reveal that Charlie Parker described Billie Holiday as a dangerous artist, not because of her personal character, but because her emotional authenticity was so powerful that other performers felt intimidated. Bird believed that Billie's ability to channel personal pain into artistic expression was unmatched, and younger musicians often felt inadequate when compared to her emotional depth. This dangerous characterization reflected Bird's awareness that Billie set an artistic standard that few could match. Her willingness to expose personal vulnerability created an artistic benchmark that intimidated musicians who preferred technical safety over emotional risk. The musical influence Billie had on Charlie Parker extended to harmonic understanding and emotional expression. Bird studied how Billie navigated chord changes through melodic logic and emotional necessity. The personal friendship between Charlie and Billie was complicated by their shared addiction struggles. While they understood each other's problems, they also sometimes enabled destructive behavior. Their friendship demonstrated both supportive potential and destructive risks. Professional collaborations between Charlie Parker and Billie Holiday were limited but had significant impact on both artists. In 1946, a spontaneous performance together at a jam session became legendary among the musicians present. Bird's saxophone lines complemented Billie's vocal phrasing perfectly, creating a musical conversation that demonstrated how different jazz styles could harmoniously coexist. This performance was never officially recorded, but those present described it as a transcendent musical experience. This legendary jam session occurred at Minton's Playhouse during a late-night informal gathering. The spontaneous nature of the performance allowed both artists to respond purely to the musical moment. This freedom created a magical musical dialogue. Musicians present that night described feeling privileged to witness something special. This type of spontaneous collaboration represented jazz at its purest. Louis Armstrong's relationship with Billie Holiday represented a generational bridge between early jazz pioneers and modern interpreters. Satchmo was already an established legend when Billie began her career, but despite the age difference, mutual respect and artistic admiration developed. Louis appreciated Billie's innovative vocal techniques that expanded jazz singing possibilities, while Billie learned from Louis's showmanship and audience engagement skills. This generational bridge was particularly important during a period when jazz was rapidly evolving. Louis served as an artistic link between different eras of jazz development. His relationship with Billie demonstrated how different generations could learn from each other. The professional opportunities Louis provided to Billie were a significant career boost. He recommended her for important recording sessions and shared stages with her at prestigious events. Louis's mentorship style was gentle but effective, offering guidance through example. He demonstrated how to maintain artistic integrity while achieving commercial success. These lessons proved invaluable as Billie navigated the complex entertainment industry. The musical influence of this relationship flowed in both directions. Louis adopted some of Billie's emotional interpretation techniques. Billie incorporated Louis's timing sense and rhythmic confidence. Private correspondence between Louis Armstrong and Billie Holiday reveals a warm personal friendship that extended beyond professional collaborations. The letters discuss personal struggles, career challenges, and shared experiences as black artists in a discriminatory entertainment industry. Louis often provided emotional support during Billie's difficult periods, offering practical advice and professional opportunities when other doors were closed. These private letters were remarkable for their emotional honesty and mutual respect. Louis addressed Billie as an artistic equal, seeking her opinions on musical matters. Billie responded with genuine affection. The personal relationship extended to social interactions beyond the professional context. Louis frequently invited Billie to family gatherings, providing a stable social environment. These private letters reveal that Louis Armstrong privately supported Billie's controversial songs like Strange Fruit, despite not performing such politically charged material himself. This support was significant because Louis had achieved mainstream success and was risking commercial appeal by association with controversial artists. His private encouragement provided emotional validation that helped Billie continue performing socially conscious material despite industry pressure. Louis's political stance was complex and often misunderstood. While he avoided overt political statements, he privately supported civil rights causes. This private support for Billie's political songs demonstrated his genuine commitment to social justice. The historical context of this relationship was important for understanding both artists' positions. Louis represented a connection to jazz origins. Billie represented innovative vocal interpretation. Together they demonstrated how jazz tradition could evolve. This relationship was also significant for understanding how established artists could support emerging talents. Louis's secure position allowed him to be generous with guidance. His mentorship of Billie became a model for artistic leadership. The legacy of this relationship continued beyond both artists' lives, influencing how subsequent generations understood jazz development. Musical historians point to their friendship as an example of artistic evolution through collaboration. Dizzy Gillespie's interactions with Billie Holiday represented the bebop generation's more respectful approach toward traditional artists. Unlike Miles Davis's hostile attitude, Dizzy showed appreciation for different musical styles and demonstrated willingness to learn from established performers. This mature perspective allowed for productive collaborations that benefited both artists artistically. In 1947, a recording session with Dizzy's big band included Billie as featured vocalist. This collaboration was successful because Dizzy created arrangements that showcased Billie's strengths while incorporating modern harmonic elements. These sessions demonstrated that traditional and bebop styles could successfully merge when mutual respect and artistic understanding were present. Dizzy's personal relationship with Billie was characterized by genuine friendship and professional support. His memoirs described Billie as an irreplaceable artist who influenced an entire generation of musicians. Unlike some bebop pioneers who dismissed traditional styles, Dizzy acknowledged that innovation should build upon, not destroy, previous artistic achievements. Recording industry politics significantly influenced relationships between jazz artists. Record companies often encouraged rivalries between musicians to generate publicity and increase sales. These artificial conflicts sometimes damaged genuine friendships and created unnecessary tensions within the jazz community. Billie Holiday often found herself caught between these manufactured controversies, forced to choose sides in disputes she preferred to avoid. Label executives were particularly manipulative in organizing recording sessions that paired incompatible artists for dramatic effect. These sessions often failed musically but generated publicity that companies valued more than artistic quality. Many promising collaborations were sabotaged by commercial considerations that prioritized short-term profits over long-term artistic development. This commercial interference created an environment where artists felt pressure to maintain public personas that didn't reflect their true relationships. Private friendships were often hidden to avoid affecting commercial prospects, while public feuds were sometimes exaggerated for marketing purposes. This artificial atmosphere made genuine artistic collaboration increasingly difficult as jazz became more commercialized. Generational differences within the jazz community created natural tensions that sometimes escalated into personal conflicts. Older musicians like Billie Holiday represented traditional approaches that younger artists needed to differentiate themselves from to establish individual identities. This generational evolution was normal in artistic development, but sometimes expressed in unnecessarily harsh ways. Younger bebop musicians often felt pressure to reject everything associated with the previous generation to prove their innovation and artistic independence. This rejection sometimes included personal attacks rather than constructive criticism, creating hurt feelings and damaged relationships. Billie Holiday, as a prominent representative of traditional jazz, often became a target for these generational criticisms. However, time and perspective allowed for better understanding and reconciliation. Many young musicians who initially criticized traditional artists later acknowledged their influences and expressed regret for harsh early statements. This artistic maturation process demonstrated that different generations could learn from each other rather than compete destructively. Racism within the jazz industry affected relationships between artists in complex ways. While the jazz community was generally more integrated than broader society, subtle forms of discrimination still influenced professional opportunities and personal interactions. Black artists often competed for limited positions in integrated venues, creating tensions that otherwise might not have existed. Record companies sometimes encouraged competition between black artists while providing more opportunities to white musicians. This systematic disadvantage created an environment where collaboration between black artists was sometimes viewed as a necessity for survival rather than an artistic choice. This external pressure influenced personal relationships in ways that participants didn't always consciously recognize.
Billie Holiday, as a female artist in a male-dominated industry, faced additional challenges that affected her relationships with male musicians. Some collaborations were limited by sexist attitudes that viewed female performers as less serious artists. However, many male jazz legends recognized her exceptional talent and treated her as an equal artistic partner, creating some of jazz history's most meaningful musical relationships. Critical reception in jazz publications influenced artist relationships by promoting certain collaborations while ignoring others. Critics often favored avant-garde developments over traditional approaches, creating the impression that only certain types of musical partnerships were worthy of attention. This critical bias affected how artists viewed their own work and their colleagues' contributions. Magazine coverage frequently sensationalized personal conflicts while downplaying successful collaborations. This media focus on controversy rather than artistic achievement created incentives for public disputes and discouraged private reconciliation. Many valuable artistic relationships were damaged by irresponsible journalism that prioritized sales over accuracy. Historical documentation of artist relationships is often incomplete because personal interactions were rarely fully recorded. Private conversations, informal jam sessions, and backstage interactions represent a significant portion of how jazz musicians actually related to each other, but these experiences are typically lost to history. Official recordings and public statements provide only a partial picture of complex human relationships. The legacy of these jazz relationships continues to influence contemporary musicians and music educators. Understanding how previous generations navigated artistic differences, personal conflicts, and professional challenges provides valuable lessons for current artists. This historical perspective demonstrates that musical innovation emerges from dialogue between different approaches rather than complete rejection of previous traditions. Modern jazz education increasingly emphasizes collaboration and mutual respect among different stylistic approaches, learning from the mistakes and successes of previous generations. This educational approach encourages students to appreciate diverse musical traditions while developing their own artistic voices, creating a more inclusive and supportive artistic community. Contemporary recording projects sometimes deliberately recreate historical collaborations that were never properly documented, allowing modern audiences to experience musical partnerships that might have been. These tributes demonstrate the continuing relevance and inspiration that these jazz relationships provide to the current artistic community. This complex web of relationships, rivalries, and collaborations between jazz legends reveals that musical history was much more nuanced than public perception suggests. Personal conflicts often mask deeper artistic respect. Understanding these dynamics provides a richer appreciation for jazz music. Billie Holiday's relationships with other jazz legends demonstrate that great art emerges from human complexity. Her interactions with Miles Davis, Duke Ellington, Charlie Parker, and Louis Armstrong revealed different aspects of her artistry. This story reminds us that behind every great artistic achievement, a network of personal relationships exists. Jazz history is particularly rich in these human connections because music itself demanded collaboration. If you enjoyed this video and are curious about other jazz legends' untold stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Next week we'll explain Ella Fitzgerald and Frank Sinatra's secret recording sessions and their complicated professional relationship. These collaborations shaped modern vocal jazz in ways that most people never realized. Tell me in the comments, do you think artistic collaborations are enhanced by personal relationships, or does maintaining professional distance produce better results? Jazz history is full of examples supporting both approaches.